right, what's up, Aloha Love Tribe? This is DJ Val, and I have got somebody super special who I've known for several decades back in San Diego, and he really inspired me with something that he did with his friends. And I still want to know if you do this, Darren, the paint nights. But Darren is an epic artist, and he teaches art. He's been teaching art to adults and kids and creating curriculum for people to get in touch with their creative spirit. So Darren Cohen, what's up? Thanks for being here.
Hey Val, happy to be here.
Woo-hoo.
Hello, everybody.
So I want to talk about paint night. Like that was something that I was, I was so inspired that you and your crew did paint night. Are you guys still doing that? And tell us what paint night is and was.
Well, I would describe Paint Night Group as a loose disorganization of artists, and we would get together once a week and make art and show together, and we did a lot of collaboration, which I think has been a really amazing part of what I bring to the table when I teach. But sadly, we are not meeting as often as we used to. We still are all in contact, but some of us have scattered to the winds to the four corners of the world, and others are just got involved in work and family, and we just aren't the carefree 20-year-olds that we used to be.
Yeah.
So,
how does that fit in for you as an artist? You're a dad now. Congratulations. And, and a hubby. And, when we were the free, carefree spirits back in the 90s and our Burners crew and everybody, it was so like, well, of course we can make time to do art with our buddies and we can do all these things. How do you integrate these things in your life? Because clearly it's part of your medicine and part of your message on this planet.
Definitely. I mean, I think, I am at my core kind of a lazy person. And one of the things I've had to realize for myself is that just like exercise, making art is something that I need to do or my life gets out of balance.
Wow.
Yeah. Just like, you need to exercise or you're going to get unhealthy. You're going to, get sick or, be weak or, there's just lots of problems that happen. So, even though I'm not really big on exercise, like I do it every day because it is something that is crucial to me. And it's the same thing with creating. So I am disciplined. I try to be disciplined about doing it, just like I try to be disciplined with exercise.
And so as an artist and a DJ, and my art form is, sonic more than tangible. But even though I make some mosaics. I made that little mosaic behind me right there. It's pretty badass.
Yeah, I like that.
Pretty cool. But but like I know I've been guilty, and I imagine a lot of the listeners are guilty of like, well, I need to feel inspired before I go make my art or before I go do my thing. Sounds like you've developed a practice that you're not listening to, just letting it be dictated by inspiration, but being dictated by the discipline.
Well, yeah, I mean, I would say that, one of the most valuable things I teach are these 4 rules of creativity, where the basic concept behind it is that rather than waiting to be inspired, and then creating as a result of that, you just start creating and then the inspiration comes. So by making something, it forces you to become more creative. And, when we talk about creativity, I think what we're really talking about is generating lots of original ideas. The faster you can generate lots of original ideas, the more creative you are. So this is sort of, like I said, you can wait and wait and wait for inspiration to strike, and you're going to be waiting a long time. Or you can just start making something without even needing to know what it's going to be, and then it's a game. And so I have these 4 rules. I'll run them down and sort of.
Yeah, let's hear it.
That sounds good. So rule number 1 is have fun. If you can make your creative endeavor, whatever it is, into a fun thing, then you're more likely to access imagination, which is where you find these creative ideas. If you think of imagination as kind of this big vessel that just has all these ideas that have ever been or ever will be, and we have this little periscope that goes up into this thing or the straw or whatever, And if we can make that straw bigger so we can take in more of that information from the imagination, then we can have more ideas. So if you're having fun, when I think of the things that are fun for me, it's a lot about reading a book or catching a movie or playing a video game, these things that engage us. And it all kind of comes down to stories. People love stories. And so if you can get into that mindset of making something, or having a good time while you're making this thing, then you're going to be able to access imagination and become inspired the same way that you access imagination when you're watching a good movie or reading a good book, and you get inspired from that, or a sunset or whatever it is that you're taking in with your senses.
Love it.
So number one, have fun.
Have fun. Love it.
Number two, make one decision at a time. It's sort of trying to keep you into the present tense. So lots of times when I'm making art, I'll make a decision that needs to happen at that time, or I'll consider a lot of decisions and I'll discard those decisions and then make a decision. But then later on in the painting, I'll look at it again and I'll make the decision that I discarded earlier, because that's what it requires at that moment, but it didn't need it earlier. So it's always about trying to stay in that moment and doing what that piece of art needs right at that moment, rather than thinking too far ahead, trying to make this plan. So make one decision at a time. And number three goes right with that, which is make decisions that you like. So this actually requires you to stay mindful with what you're doing. Especially with little kids, a lot of times when I'll be making art with them, or I'll be coming around and suddenly they're just like scribbling up in the corner of their page, and they're not really thinking about what they're doing. They're just kind of scribbling, and it's like, no, you have to really stay mindful and think about why you're doing that and whether you like what you're doing or not. And this also kind of requires you to, I think a lot of people know what they like and they don't like, but they don't really understand why. Yeah. So, you have to sort of, depending on what it is that you're making, like in painting, there are the elements and principles of design, which are these sort of guidelines for how something looks. So for example, contrast is a principle of design, which is when eliminating sameness, right? Like something really big and something really small, or something black next to something white, contrast. So that's the principle. And then you use the elements of design like shape, line, color to fulfill that. So for example, I can use color to create contrast. So you look at a painting, you say, oh, I see that artist used contrast in this way. And then you decide, do you like it or do you not like it? And if you like it, then that's something you can take and apply into your own work. And if you don't like it, then you can avoid it. So kind of understanding what it is that you're doing and why you're doing it, and if you like it or not. And then rule number 4 is always try to improve your creation. Always try to make it better. I like to talk about getting stuck, when you get stuck, and sort of what you do when you get stuck. That can help lead you to finishing the piece. And so for me, it's about standing back, looking at a painting and thinking to myself, okay, what is it that I like about this painting? And so those are areas that I don't touch. I leave those. And then I think to myself, what are the areas that I find distracting in a negative way? What would I change? And then I have strategies for thinking about how I want to change that thing. And inevitably, when you take care of big problems, then it reveals all these little problems, and then you take care of the little problems, and then suddenly you've finished and you're done.
How do you know when you're done with your art, your piece of art?
When I no longer see anything that's distracting me in a negative way.
So everything's
at it, and I'm like, okay, everything is working for me right now. That's why I say, if you like an area, just don't touch it. it could change later on. You might do something somewhere else in the painting and you need to do something in that area that you liked previously. You can go back in at that point, right? Make one decision at a time, and then you make that change, and then hopefully that area is taken care of again, and everything, you build your canvas up until it's, you don't want to do too much. You don't want to overwork it.
Yeah, that's
I'm
like
sure it's
life.
the same with music, I would imagine.
It's always like, yeah, you go back and well, and for me, like when I DJ, I never have played the same set twice.
Yeah.
And so I don't, it's not like, okay, here's my set. I'm going to go in and I'm going to constantly tweak. I might like play a couple different records in a row that I know are good chunks that go well together and they, do this thing. So I might try to be better at those mixes, but it's like going back and trying to like recreate a set,
Yeah.
it's just sort of like, nope, I might tweak, it's different. How do you think art can change the world and save our planet?
Well, I mean, before I think we started, I sort of mentioned that I see art as as something that is healing.
Yeah.
Uh, I work with injured military people at the Naval Hospital here in San Diego. I do workshops with them.
Wow.
Uh, I work with underserved schools, so I work with a lot of kids that are from challenging backgrounds, and so I've seen what making art can do for these people, how they feel after making it, and I see the healing that happens. And I mean, if you go online and you just do a search about wellness and art, I mean, even just looking at a beautiful picture
Hmm.
does something to the brain chemistry in your head and makes you feel good, and is good for your well-being. Making art is even more so, because you're activating all the areas of your brain. And in fact, uh, you know as science about flow state has started to come out more and more, I've seen how that links in with my four rules of creativity, and how that is, I achieve flow state all the time when I'm making art. And so a lot of what I teach has been about achieving flow state through making art, which is, flow state is basically this feeling of effortlessness, timelessness, selflessness, and richness. Like it's almost like being on a drug or something.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think that people like that. I think people crave that, and I think that people want to feel productive. They want to make things. They want to do things, and so if I think if you're making something and you're wanting to share it, and it's making you feel better and it's making them feel better, then it's a great thing. And unfortunately, if people don't channel that energy into something creative, they can also, it gets channeled sometimes into destructive things. And I see that a lot with my younger students, from these challenging backgrounds that I was talking about, where they have these behaviors, and if you can channel it into a creative direction, then I think you avoid, you know be a creator, be a maker, not a destroyer. And I
Yeah.
think that makes the world a better place.
Definitely. And I think of just, as you're talking about that with the kids that you work with, I think of graffiti artists and kids versus kids who tag stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like those are kind of a different mentality. And it's sort of, I think as the human spirit wants to be seen, like we want to
Mm-hmm.
be recognized and seen as humans. And so whether it's through art or through being a chef or a politician or a doctor or whatever it is, it's like there's this longing for our voices to be heard, through these different forms of expression. And again, if we're not expressing ourselves in a healthy way, in a creative, positive way,
Mm.
it still is going to come out in some kind of an expression, like you said, and it can be destructive because we're getting sideways in that energy flow. So
Right. They want the attention. It doesn't matter if it's negative or positive, right?
yeah. And it's not just, and it's like it's a natural human desire to be seen. It's not
Yes,
about, oh
yes.
my God, I have to have my tits on fire or whatever, even though that's kind of fun. But
I feel like I've seen you like that once or
I
twice.
think there's been something like that somewhere back in the old days. But, it's just like whatever that version is, and so it's like tapping in and saying yes to your creativity, even if you think you can only draw a stick figure,
Right.
there's,
You
you
got to
can,
start somewhere.
you got to start somewhere and you can learn techniques. Obviously, like I didn't know how to DJ before I DJ'd. I'm like, oh my God, it sounds like shoes in the dryer. What the heck is this? It's awful. But, you just got to get in and learn. There's ways to learn. Um,
Absolutely.
okay, so let's talk about, let's give the audience an experiment this week. We talked about your 4 principles. What do you think is something they can do, one simple thing each day to just, tap in and say yes to some creativity for themselves?
Let's see. I mean, I guess I would like, I make it, I make it a game lots
Ooh,
of times,
cool. Okay.
if you can, one game that surrealists would do is they would have a piece of paper and then drop a piece of string on it, and then they would, sort of draw where the curves and stuff of the string were, and then they try to make an image out of that thing.
Okay.
So that's kind of a fun open thing. When I play games like that with my students, I tell them that we're trying to make this into a funny picture. Try and make it something funny, so that sort of makes them have this more fun attitude about it, and to also explain that it doesn't have to be a great image in order to be funny.
Right.
Some of the best little comics, Far Side comics or whatever, pretty crude. So you could actually do a crude drawing and have it turn out funny and have it be this big win just from this little squiggle on a piece of paper. So that can be a good way to just get going. Or, I mean, some people really feel like they want to end up with a picture of something, a thing, and I would just encourage people to find a photograph or even a drawing by another artist that they respond to and are engaged with, and just try to pick out the main shapes that they see, and then break those main shapes down into the smaller shapes that they see that make up the image, and just see if they can copy it a little bit and have a little bit of success with that. I mean, I think I've had really great luck with students when we go step by step and I show them a step and then they copy, and they feel a little more. I don't know. It's something that's just it makes it easier to have a guide sometimes, but the thing is, it doesn't have to be about making art. It could be about making a recipe. I think that
Yeah.
if you make a sandwich, then that is a creative act, because I'll be making a sandwich and I'll say, "Ooh, I've got that great bread. I'm going to get that bread, and I'm not just going to get that bread. I'm going to toast it in the toaster oven really quick, and
Yeah.
then I know I've got mayo, and I'm going to get some sriracha in there, and I'm going to squirt that on, and I've got that." It's like you're. This is what I'm talking about. You're creating, but as you're creating, you're becoming inspired because of just the act of making something. So
Yeah.
I think it could be anything, and it could be that paper that you have to do for your college class, or your that report for your company, or whatever it is. I think if you can apply those 4 rules, you'll get more ideas, and you'll be able to make something cool.
I love it. I think it's a great idea. I think about too, just even like little areas in our house. It's kind of like you can make a little vignette or a little altar or anything. Like, okay, I'm going to take one little flower and put it here. And like any little thing you can do to like add a little art and beauty and creativity to your day, you know,
Definitely.
in all areas,
Yeah, my daughter, she collects rocks, and
mm,
so she's got all these rocks, and she arranges them in different ways, and stacks them and puts them on. It's exactly what you're talking about. Yes,
it's so
make
fun.
your space beautiful. Make it interesting. Make it, you see that feather, take that feather home, put it in a vase, or it's just like you can endlessly be creative in life. I think you could sweep a floor in a creative way. I think that
Yeah.
anything can be elevated to the level of art if it's done well.
Yeah. With any intent, with that intention of
Yeah,
like,
with that intent.
I want to be involved in this moment and creating something, and it could be weird or funky or ugly, but you
Just do a dance.
just
Yeah.
do something. Yeah. Do the funky chicken. Um, Speaking of a dance, your song of the week, what'd you pick? I got it here.
Yeah. I picked Summertime Rolls, Jane's Addiction.
Why?
I just, I think it's very poetic. Like I love the lyrics are amazing, and the build, like the way the song just builds on itself. It starts so quiet and sort of soft, and then it just like reaches this crescendo of Perry kind of yelling, screaming these lyrics, and the guitar is heavy and the beat is going, and it's inspiring to me. I love it. And then it brings it back down again and nice and soft and quiet. So there we're talking about contrast, right? You
Mm-hmm.
have it in music too. You have really loud, faster parts and then the soft, gentle parts. And that sort of contradiction is really cool and interesting and fun for me. I love that song, and I love the summer, and I love the feeling that the lyrics, and it just all works together so awesome for me.
And so when I do, like I said, I do some art and I do a little painting, but I do love to put certain kinds of music on when I'm working, or
Yeah.
creating and doing art. Do you have
Sure.
certain music that you like to listen to? And do you notice, does your art come out differently if you're listening to certain music?
Um, I mean, I put on lots of different kinds of music, and I would say, huh, it doesn't, unless that's my intention is to listen to the music and have that impact the painting. It
Mhm.
doesn't really. It's more of like like I'll listen to Parliament and just be, George Clinton is this musical genius, and he made this music, and it's so good, and it just drives me to want to make something really good,
Nice.
and
And
so that's kind of my, all of the, Jimi Hendrix, the Beatles, any, uh, Jane's Addiction, Johnny Cash, Bob Marley. I real broad taste.
I love
Um,
it. Well, and your art. So I've been looking at your art. You have obviously expanded over the years, like all of the pieces that you've created. I'm like, holy cow! Like, there's something that though you have there's, I can't always tell if it's a Darren Cohen piece, but like you have a signature vibration in your art and the way that you fill things in and use light and the shapes and things, and they're very. I'm not going to try to compare you to anybody because I'm not super, like, oh, Picasso, but you have a very interesting, cool, unique style. Are you wearing your t-shirt? Is this t-shirt from you? Is that a print
yeah,
of yours?
I'll stand up a little bit. You can see
Okay,
it's
cool.
one of my paintings, and yeah, it's like when you're in
It's awesome, by the way.
you're a painter, and you just want to paint and make art and maybe teach others how to make art, but then there's this whole business side of things that you have to kind of navigate and figure out, okay, well, this is what I like, and this is what I want to do, but it's not necessarily valued as much in the society that we live in, or at least there's a very small number of people that are valued in it, and then there's everybody else who's just like trying to figure out a way to make it work for them. And so this is just one of the ways that it's I make so little off of it, honestly. It's more of a way of just getting the art out there and giving people an affordable way to be able to support me and have something cool on their back, and
Yeah, it's badass. Well,
thank you.
and so just circling back to art night and or paint night group.
Yeah.
And I remember when you told me about that many, many years ago, you said you can't work on your business projects. Like you can't work on commercial stuff. It was more art for art's sake. So it wasn't like, oh, I have to go do, I'm working on this thing. I got to finish it. I got a deadline. It seems like it was more of this, like I said, art for art's sake. And so
Definitely.
coming out of, obviously you have a brand and you have a certain kind of vibe that you put out, but that seems like that'll give you more of a playground or a laboratory for really experimenting and having permission with others and collaborating, and just seeing what the heck is possible,
I mean, at its very core, it was just friends getting together, catching a buzz, and trying to make some cool stuff. And that's what it was. And
Awesome.
luckily we had this physical residue of work that we made. And we I mean, we made some significant work as a group that I mean, impacted some. I don't know how many people it impacted. I think it impacted all of us in a really positive way, and then hopefully people who saw it enjoyed it for what it was. And I mean, I would say when it comes to making art, my biggest hope when someone looks at it would be that they would be inspired to make something, or be kind of transformed in some ways, really lofty kind of goals. But that would be the thing that I would want the most. And the thing that I hope at the very least is that it could take them out of their default mode and bring them into the present moment to really experience that piece of art and take it in, and forget about their daily life for a moment or two.
Yeah, I love that.
I don't know. Who knows how successful that is, but we try.
It does, though, when you see art, whatever, like whether it's a sunset or a piece of beautiful artwork that you painted, or a sculpture, or, a building, it's like, it gives you hope and possibility and wonder, and we need that, like, even in these microdoses of those experiences. And so I think art is, definitely part of my life. And I think it can definitely help the planet. So let's talk about you, of course, a lot of people support all the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. There's 17 of them. But number 4 is quality education. And I think that aligns with the nonprofit and the organization that you teach with. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. I mean, basically you have kids all over the place that are starving for art education.
Yeah.
Kids that have never used watercolors, never used oil pastels. And, we have been communicating through images since we lived in caves and couldn't communicate through words yet, so it's like this really, I think you can look at it as art is a text, just like, words on a page, or, even math is a text, right? You have two things, you take
Music.
two more things,
Yeah.
and it equals 4, right? So there's a storytelling aspect to it that I think is a real natural fit for kids, especially who maybe who can't read or write yet. And
Yeah.
so, I think that I feel really honored to be a part of Arts for Learning San Diego. That's a nonprofit that I work for, and actually it's inspiring me to maybe start my own nonprofit that is a little more specific to the things that I do. So
Cool.
Yeah, it's great.
I love it. So I'm going to have all the links here, guys, in the show notes at djvaleriebelev.com/podcast. And so we'll have Darren's show notes and all the links. Where can everybody find you, Darren? Like, where are you on social websites?
Yeah, Instagram is a good one. Just my name, Darren Cohen. And then my website is darrencohen.com. And, Facebook, Darren Cohen.
Awesome. And it's DERON, guys, DERONCOHEN .com. And so, all right. One last thing.
Sure.
Any one last thing you want to share with this little love tribe of ours before we rock and roll?
I would just say, make something, create something, share it with others. If you have that gift, it's a selfish thing to keep it to yourself. Spread it out there. Give yourself a chance to heal other people, just like you heal yourself when you make something. And, please feel free to reach out anytime. Always looking for new people, new people that like what I do. And have a wonderful day.
Yay. Awesome, Darren. You're awesome. And yeah, you guys definitely check Darren out. Go check out his website, check out all his artwork, get some of his art, stick it up somewhere where you can see it and smile and be inspired to make your own art. And thank you so much again, Darren. This has been such an honor and a privilege. I know how busy you are, and congrats on being a daddy. And it's just,
Thank you.
it's a neat journey, huh?
Yeah, well, I'm honored. Thank you. Appreciate it so much.
Totally. All right, everybody, let's take a big inhale together. Inhale some love inside of our hearts. And exhale peace out to the planet. All right, thanks, Dan.